Hi everyone, welcome by Creating the Better World. My name is Slavomira Harcegova. I'm a Feng Shui practitioner and transformational leader. I'm doing this series of interview to help you see this situation in another point of view. I would like to help you to shift your focus from all these crises and catastrophe to something positive. There are so many opportunities in every situation. So I'm so happy that my today's guest is spiritual teacher and my friend Michael Stone.
Hmm.
Welcome, Michael.
Thank you, Slavomira. It's so good to be with you. Thank you for your work.
I'm so happy that you accepted my invitation. So please, at first, introduce yourself a little bit for our audience.
Okay, I guess I would introduce myself as a friend in general, and I'm 75. I've been doing this kind of work for 50 years, probably. And the work, particularly for me, is to dissolve the myth or the lie of separation. The idea that we're objects in a world of objects. We've been living inside of a belief structure, a world view that says that we're objects in a world of objects based on the 300-year-old belief in the Cartesian Newtonian paradigm, or mechanistic, deterministic science perspective that says that we're objects in a world of objects and that we're separate. And in fact, that isn't true. And quantum physics over the last 100 years has validated what the spiritual teachers and mystics have been saying for tens of thousands of years, that everything we do and everything we say affects everyone and everything else. So literally affects each other. And so the work is to begin to dissolve that sense of separateness. And this is an amazing time to be alive because the opportunity is here to do that. And I'm very excited to be on your show and spend time with you, Slavomira.
Great. So let's talk about this separation. Now we are like physically separate. So what we can do, how we can see the opportunities here, what we can do in this time.
Hmm. Yeah, great question. Thank you. Well, yes, we are around the world physically separated. And I believe we've never been so connected. Thank you to the internet and programs like yours that really allow us to connect on a not physical level. And I think that the idea in English, we talk about social distancing. I think that's really a misnomer. We're physically distancing, and at the same time, we're becoming more socially connected. So when you recognize that we can connect, like right now, I can be with you, I can see with you, I can even feel what's happening with you by just being present and being in my body. And one of the issues is that people are not very present. You know, presence is always here, but mostly we're not. And what I mean by that is James Joyce had a wonderful statement in, forgot which book now, but he said, Mr. Duffy lived a short distance from his body. And most of us live a short distance from our body. We're not actually inhabiting our body, which is the spiritual antenna for being able to tune into each other. It's our instrument. And so when we're not in our body, I mean, we're not physically feeling much of what's going on in our body for most of us. Even as a dancer myself and an athlete, a runner, I know that many people are not feeling their body. And of course, I worked for many years in the corporate world. And I used to say I work with heads on sticks because the only reason they had a body was to take their head from meeting to meeting. So the first issue really is the fact that we are not in our bodies for the most part. And we discover that through meditation, through contemplation, through different kinds of journey methods that we do. And we can begin to re-embody ourselves. The second issue is that we are not in touch for the most part with our emotions, unless it's a very strong emotion, which we usually blame on something outside of ourselves, maybe anger or frustration or grief, the ones that are easier to feel than the more subtle sadness, joy, compassion, kindness, the different areas of our feeling sense. So we need to begin to rehabilitate ourselves to feel and actually not blame our feelings on the past. I call it the remembered past and the imagined future, because we think that things that happened in the past are affecting us now. Unfortunately, it's always now. It's never then. The only past that we have is the one that we bring into the present. And so the only future that we have is the one we imagine. We don't know what the future is, but it's the one that we're living with in the present. So what you say is very important about the negativity that's going on and the fear that's going on, because we are living that into the present. And so first, we need to re-embody ourselves. Second, we need to take responsibility for and experience our emotions. Thirdly, we need to quiet the mind and drop from the mind into the heart. So this is an old, ancient teaching. And it's interesting because the work of heart math and other people have demonstrated that, for instance, the electromagnetic field, which affects everything around us, of the heart is 5,000 times stronger than that of the mind. But the mind has usurped, it's kidnapped the heart. And so it's overriding the heart. So we need to live from the heart. And to do that, we have to quiet the mind, which I am a big advocate of meditation and contemplation and other ways of stilling the mind. The fourth area I would say that is in need of great healing, and when I say healing, I mean returning to wholeness, is our relational intimacy, our ability to be intimate in relationship, to actually connect with our heart, to connect with understanding, compassion, kindness, and to be able to be in our body and feel each other. So our stories, and I said we live inside of a story, our stories are something that we have adapted to. And you could call our story our ego. You could call it many different things. But our story is based on a number of different things. It's based on our ancestral hand-me-downs, the baggage of our ancestors, which we carry in every cell of our body. 50 trillion cells, each one having 100 to 200 trillion atoms. Each atom has a neutron, a proton, an electrical field that actually emanates light to the edges of the universe. We don't actually appreciate the miracle of just being here and having consciousness. And so how do we reconnect ourselves is the big issue. How do we reconnect ourselves? We reconnect ourselves by connecting with ourselves first. And we really begin to unravel this story of who I am that was handed to me by my ancestors, then my familial experiences and my life experiences, mostly that happened in the first seven years of life, mostly that we're really impacted. So let's say right now you think about the fear that people are feeling around the virus and how that's affecting us. Well, I would say that the fear that people are experiencing has very little to do with the virus or what's happening right now. In fact, what it's doing is triggering old fear from the past. Fear that's based on a brilliant adaptation of our central nervous system and our body, which is when things are too overwhelming and we're young, we're children, and say we have some trauma, some experience that happens to us, the nervous system has the capacity to dissociate, to suppress those feelings, those experiences, so that we can keep on going because it's so overwhelming. We keep on going. But those parts that are suppressed are parts of our essence, of what I call our essential goodness. They're suppressed, they're pushed down, and they're like frozen inside of us. So it's like if you had a frozen chicken in your refrigerator. It always takes a lot of energy to keep it frozen. The electricity is running, and that's connected to what is creating pollution and all the things that are connected. It's the same in the body. When you're suppressing some part of your essence, it takes a lot of energy. So the first issue is, well, how do I release that energy? Let's say that I experience a lot of stress or anxiety in my life, along with the fear. It's there. It's working together, right? And I'm continually trying to not be afraid or trying to fix something because I have a belief that something about me is broken, isn't working because I have this fear. But that is so not true. The reason the fear or the anxiety is coming up because it needs to be seen and digested, because those parts that we suppressed as a child haven't been integrated into our nervous system. They haven't been digested into our system. So how do you do that? Well, the way you do it is by not trying to change. It's paradoxical. The thing about change is change occurs when we can fully be with something as it is, which creates the conditions for real change to happen. But when we push something away, we're constantly reaffirming in the moment that it's there. And if we're always in the here and now, and we're trying to push something away, but we're always in the here and now, we're constantly saying that I have this fear, or I have this pain, or I have this stress or anxiety. If we look at what stress is, you have to see it beneath the cover called stress. Stress, when we name things in physics, they call it a wave collapse. When we name something, we take away the possibilities, the potentiality. So when we call something stress, what does stress really mean? People don't actually, it doesn't really define anything. It's like if I say, I'm sick. Well, what does that mean when I'm sick? Do I have a cold? Do I have the virus? Or do I have stage 4 terminal cancer? You see, it means nothing. It's one of those blanket words that eliminates all the nuances and the issues that are really there. So when I say I'm stressed, what I'm really saying is something is too much. Something's too much. And I do not have the capacity inside of my current commitments and what's happening in my life to hold it. So I push it down. Okay. So what does that mean? That means that I need to learn how to expand my capacity. How do I learn to expand my capacity? By loving whatever is arising in me and integrating it into my nervous system, into my my body, really, to dissolve. So all that energy, that frozen energy, the chickens that are all down there frozen, right? They all want to be released, but they can't be released when we try to fix something or try to change something, because what change does is keep things the same. That's all. We want to transmute, transform, to transcend, to integrate, digest these frozen experiences, of which we have many in our lives. No matter how great our childhood and our parents were, you're going to have trauma. You're going to have fear. You're going to have issues. So most of us have that trauma because for some reason we didn't get the love and the nurturing and the connection our parents didn't model, because they didn't know, nor did our grandparents or our ancestors. Some of our ancestors way back probably did understand that. Many tribal cultures know that if a child is fearful or anxious or has something going on, that they put their arms around them and the whole community gives them love and attention. And that makes a healthy human being. But we have a base that starts with a mother and a father, or caregivers, if we didn't have a mother and a father, that form our base. And in that base, we're born and we develop. And the way we develop as a child is we are connected. We don't even have separation, an understanding of being separate. We are those people. And that's the ultimate place we want to get back to, not as a mother and father, but like, I am really you over here. I'm experiencing you inside of me right now, and you're experiencing me. So when I'm noticing myself being with you, being with me, that dissolves the separation as an adult. But as a child, what happens is the child is curious. Child wants, our nature is to learn and to grow. Unfortunately, we've kind of stopped that, and we're kind of in a tape loop in a way, but that's our nature. Our essential goodness is growth and curiosity and wonder and surprise and amazement at that we're here at all. That's pretty amazing that we're here. And so the child is 2 or 3, and it goes venturing out, and it gets scared, and it runs back to mommy or runs back to daddy, and it says, I'm scared. Now, if daddy says, you shouldn't be scared, there's no reason to be scared, there's nothing to be scared about, that's what many parents would say. Well, that immediately causes the child to say, oh, I shouldn't be scared, but I am scared. So that gets suppressed. That feeling gets dissociated, it gets suppressed. If by the same token, the child came back and said, mommy, I'm scared, I'm scared. And mommy said, oh, it's okay, come here, it's okay to be scared. I get scared sometimes too, It's really natural to be a human and get scared. It's really healthy. So that's really great that you're growing up, you're able to feel fear. That's so amazing. And the child says, I'm scared, yay, I'm scared, I'm human. So totally different. Now, is one of those reactions better than the other? Well, one is healthier than the other, but they're so subtle. It's so easy, to have parents who were parents at 20 or 25 years old. They haven't really got a lot of life experience, and they were raised by their parents who had the same thing. So we keep recreating these trauma situations. So what do we do about it? Now we've got all these chickens that are pushed down and frozen in us. that take us away from our essential goodness, from the natural desire to be connected together. So what we need to do is to learn to love those parts of ourselves, those chickens that are suppressed, love them and warm them up a little bit. And so when I get fearful, then I can be with my fear, like really be with my fear and feel into it. Where is the fear in my body? So first of all, I have to unfreeze my emotions to actually feel it. Then I have to unfreeze my body. I have to be open. But then I see that fear and I go, Thich Nhat Hanh had a wonderful way. He said, can you love your little fear or your little anger? And yeah, so I look at it, and often it will have an age if you pay attention. So I go, oh, that fear is really old. It's like 3 years old, and maybe there's a memory when there was a loud noise in the night, there was thunder or something, and you got really scared and got under the bed and cried and nobody came from you, and you suppressed that and you pushed it down. And so what there is to do is really, really love that part of yourself that has been unwanted and unloved. And so that's on the individual level. Whatever is arising for one reason. It's arising to be healed. And when I say healed, I mean wholeness. So let's say, trying to lost my thought there a little bit. So we're trying to become whole. What does it mean to be whole? We are in congruence or alignment within ourself, our body, our feelings, and our mind are congruent with our relational intimacy, our ability to be with others. And that's a healthy person that is in that alignment. That's not most of us. That is a model of a healthy person. Maybe I'll stop and let you ask me a question, because I've put out a lot of information. Sorry about that, Slavomira. You got me on a roll there. So
Yes, but it's so interesting to see this different how we treat the children, you know?
yeah.
So maybe you can tell us what we can start to do different
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
to prevent these situations.
Well, first of all, to parents, is to really recognize that when children are born, they're already fully connected. They are born with an essential goodness. Now, some children will have in utero trauma. For instance, both of my parents were at Pearl Harbor. My father was a fighter pilot, and my mother was Women's Air Force. So I actually had in utero, and many parents, if you smoke or do drugs or drink alcohol during pregnancy, all of that affects the fetus, and the development, the structure of a human being is affected by that. So, all the way back to getting pregnant would be to be really conscious, to use it as an opportunity to bring consciousness. That fetus is connected to you fully. It's a part of you. So the more consciousness you bring to pregnancy, the more powerful that is in terms of creating possibility and potential for your child. Then the next thing is to to be with your child as if it was the Buddha, to learn from your child, to not push anything away. Now, that's really hard to do because we're dealing with our own trauma. But what a great opportunity now, because it's the same for relationship. We get into a relationship with someone, let's go back before the child. We get into a relationship with other people, usually because our neuroses perfectly fits theirs. And so the opportunity in a relationship is to really grow and to learn and to find our edges. And I'm telling you, I don't know a relationship that doesn't have that opportunity. Things will come up no matter how much you love each other and get together, your edges will show. And so starting from the very beginning in a relationship is to work towards a healthy, loving relationship and using the things that arise to heal by loving those things, exploring those things, being authentic and real, and communicating with your partner about those things. So that creates the first base. Then you get to the birth, the pregnancy, and then you get to the birth. And like the example I gave you, really any kind of fear or upset or challenge that a child has is to actually not make that wrong, because that's their developmental process. And to also at the same time, when you get triggered, you're likely getting triggered back to your own childhood, to work with that trigger and to learn from it. Let's say you have a trigger of shutting down and closing yourself off, not wanting to be with anybody. And then you have a child, and the child is making a lot of noise and banging around. Do you have children, Slavomira?
Yes.
Yes. We're good. How
I,
old are? How
I,
old?
I completely understand what you're
Yes,
talking
I'm sure you
about. I have
do.
3 children.
How old are they?
27, 25, and 17. So
Lovely,
it's
lovely. So your primary work is over, but not really, because every time they come over and have dinner with you, or maybe the 17-year-olds at home, that will also, like with your husband, take you to your edge. There'll be times when you're frustrated. They're not doing things the way that you think they should be doing things. And then you want to correct them. But the real power is to connect with them in a way that you actually hear them, see them, validate them, and stand in a place that their system knows how to heal. They just need the space to do that. And they've defined themselves away from you. So something I started to say that I forgot 10 minutes ago or something, but imagine that you had a cut on your hand, and the cut bleeds, and it amazingly, miraculously forms a scab and just heals in a short period of time. But if I look at that cut and I go, oh, I need to fix this. I need to. It's got a scab on it. I need to fix this, and I keep picking at it, and I keep trying to fix this cut. What's going to happen to the cut? Yeah, it's going to get infected. You may
yes.
lose your hand eventually. Well, it's the same for the nervous system. The nervous system has an emotion come up that wants to be seen and healed. And we keep pushing it and picking at it and fixing it and saying something's wrong with me. And that adds to our story. Something's wrong with me, something's wrong with you, something's wrong with the world. And then we end up focusing on all the things that are wrong rather than recognizing, wow, there's this miraculous system that I'm a part of that heals itself naturally. All I have to do is love myself. Now, that brings into question, what is a self? There's a poet, Japanese poet, I think his name is Wang Po. He says, why are you unhappy? Why are you unhappy? Because 99.9% of everything you do and say is about yourself, and there isn't one. So we have this identity called a self, which has only one purpose. The story called our identity, the self, has only one purpose. What do you think that purpose is?
To keep us alive.
Actually, that is the belief of it, but its only real purpose, that is the belief, the fundamental belief of the self. And it thinks it's doing that. Its only purpose, though, is its own survival. And it does that by doing what you say. But a self, the purpose of a story, an identity, an ego, a self, is its own survival, which is why it's so challenging to shift a belief, a pattern. There was a great video on the internet recently. I sent it out in my last newsletter. You might have seen it. It was called The Backwards Bicycle. And this engineer, his friends who were welders, put together this bicycle. And it was a totally normal bicycle, except that they put gears in the front at the handlebars. So when you turned right, the bicycle went to the left. And when you turned left, the bicycle went to the right. So they did this as a joke and to see if he could ride it. And he couldn't. He couldn't ride it. This is a very smart engineer, right? He could not ride the bicycle. He worked for 8 months to actually be able to ride the bicycle. And after 8 months of daily falling off, he was finally able to ride the bicycle and make it go straight. So then, after 8 months, he tried to get on a regular bicycle. He couldn't get it to work. He was in Amsterdam and everybody was laughing at him because everybody rides bikes and he could not get a regular bike. It took him 2 full months to be able to ride a normal bike after he changed the neural pathways in his brain to do this other bicycle that took 8 months in order to learn that. So the foundation of our thinking, the neural pathways are very strong, and we have the unconscious and the conscious, a simplified way of saying it. The unconscious is like a tape recorder. It runs, constantly. Every single moment, it's just recorded. And it's not recorded the actual event because it's recording your reaction to that event. So it's not the real past, like there's a real past. It's the remembered past, which I always try to get people to see. You're not responding to the past. You're responding to the way that you named what happened in the past. An example of that is, do you have siblings, sisters, brothers?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So you might be sitting at the table and telling a story. Remember that time when I was 7 and you guys did this? And they go, that didn't happen. You ever experience that? Because they have a completely different experience of that. So it's the remembered past, and the same with the future. We imagine, we have no idea what's going to happen in the future. So presencing, bringing ourselves into presence is so important. Now, looking at the neural pathways that get formed, the unconscious has the capacity to send out 40 million data packets per second. It's a lot of data packets, but that's the automatic pilot of our system. The conscious mind from the neocortex, the conscious mind has the ability to process 40 data packets per second. So the unconscious is 1 million times stronger than the conscious mind. So what does that mean in our day-to-day living? It means that 99% of everything you do or say is based from the past. And in order to change those neural pathways, we need a practice of contemplation, meditation, stillness. We need to focus inward to be able to create great change and healing within ourselves, anything that we consider to be broken. I don't consider anybody to be broken. I consider many people have a lot of frozen chickens stuffed down there that they need to thaw out. And they need to thaw out in the space of love and kindness and understanding. And so that brings us back to the place where we say, what can I do to have a better world? Start with loving yourself, and everything that arises and everything else will pretty much work out. You'll begin to see the inseparability of the world. So to look from the quantum perspective, which validates the mystical perspective, you could say that three primary things arise in the quantum mindset versus the Newtonian mechanistic mindset, worldview. Those are worldviews, how we see the world. We think that what we perceive is reality, but actually reality is what we perceive. And our perception is based on our remembered past. So to bring ourselves into presence, to presence ourselves, to overcome the million-time pressure of the unconscious mind, we have to get still. We have to get silent. We have to learn to be and bring ourselves into a state of presence. And that's at the heart of the work I do. Sorry, another long answer.
Yes, but it was a lot of information. It was very interesting. I would like to let people, like after this interview, with something practical, how they could start with practicing this, what you were talking about, for someone who's maybe not used to meditate long hours or something. So
Yeah.
how could people start to practice this and to live better and something like this?
Okay. So my short answer, and we can come back to it, is presencing. I realized that when I went into the quantum, I left off a couple of things. So I just want to say that the three things that I was referring to that are a different perspective, a different worldview, and our worldview shapes our way of seeing the world. So one is the idea of inseparability. In quantum physics, everything is connected and everything affects everything else, just like the mystics have always said that we're all connected. We're connected to the web of life. We're connected to nature. We're made of earth, air, fire, and water. We're connected to our ancestors and our descendants all at the same time. In fact, there is no time, and that's another thing that quantum physics shows, that there's a time-space continuum. Literally, I can tell you stories that you can go back and change your past, literally. As I think Jack Kornfield once said, it's never too late to have a happy childhood. We live in this. So inseparability is an important aspect of quantum physics, and the time-space continuum, which is about non-locality. Like you and I are connected right now, thousands of miles, 6,000 miles, 7,000, I don't know how many miles it is to Slovakia, but it's a long way from British Columbia. The second one is the observer effect. And that is that when we name something, we take away all the potential. We have what's called a wave collapse. And in consciousness, that means that we have murdered the alternatives, the possibilities. So to respond a little bit to the other question, and I'll do that more in a minute, that means that if we keep the questions open, we'll have much more power than when we make a decision that this is right and this is the way it is, and those people are that way, and these people, and I'm this way, and life is this way. All of those things kill the infinite potentiality that physics shows us, that everything is a wave, everything is a possibility until we name it and it collapses and becomes a point. Oh, sorry, Buddha. That's my dog. I clapped my hands. He thought I wanted him. It's okay, sweetheart. My dog's name is Buddha. And so that's another issue. Another thing that comes to us from quantum physics is the dissolving of the objective world and recognizing that everything in the world is actually quite subjective. And so this has very practical applications within the question that you're asking, because it can release a lot of anxiety and stress and fear. Because if I think there is a right way, a perfect way, and I'm striving for perfection, you probably have a little of this in your feng shui part of you, that I'm trying to get it just right. Feng shui is like, okay, this needs here, I need my bagua, I need that, that's, there's this striving for perfection. And there's nothing wrong with that, except to know that we, again, kill potentiality when we think there is a perfect way. Now, it's great to have an intention and a direction that we want to go, but because we think that there's a right way, an objective way, it causes a lot of stress, because we try to match the expectation that we have how something will be. And those expectations cause a great deal of stress and anxiety and fear that we won't make that. But if we open to infinite potentiality and think it could be way better than I even imagined it could be, I'm holding that intention for this, but I let go of possibility because I know I live in a subjective world. And that subjective world is malleable. It's always changing. So everything is always changing. So to be alive is to be with the flow of life. When we talk about athletes being in the flow, it's because they're right there. They're not in the training room. They're not on the training field. They're right there to catch the ball, to kick the ball, to do whatever that is, to be in the zone. And so for us to be in the zone is to practice presence, bringing ourselves in, to recognize that there's no is reality. There's only an occurring reality. Things are occurring, and that I can see what they are, but it's not necessarily what you see. And it's not real. It's just our perception is our reality. To recognize that and to practice, okay, well, how else could I look at this chair? How else could I look at this table? How else can I use my innate creativity, which is part of our essential goodness, which is one of the things that gets one of the frozen chickens, is our creativity. We give up our creativity by worrying about what other people will think about us, how it will show up, will it be good enough, will it really be art, whatever. We have all these stories that just squash us. So to rehabilitate our connection with creativity is to awaken to our innate goodness. We waken to our innate goodness by recognizing that that's our birthright, that we're here, and that we're here in a body means that we belong. And that we belong means that we have innate goodness. And so in the end, the practice is loving ourselves, and not in a narcissistic way. I don't mean that falling in love with our identity, our ego, our story. I mean falling in love with, being with you on this show. I've fallen in love with you, Slavomira, Don't tell your husband, but it's true. I've fallen madly in love with you because, you know, I'm here and I'm feeling your feelings, and I'm seeing your excitement about what you're doing, and your love, and I'm seeing the beautiful plants that you've placed behind you. And so, you know, there's this kind of connection that I can see myself seeing you, seeing me. That means there's an opening for us to actually recognize the innate goodness and connection that we have together. So, you know, I'm not good at prescribing specific ways that you should do that, because I firmly know that, for instance, as a teacher, I really don't think I have anything to teach. What I have to do with people is to hold the space for them to return to their innate goodness and their natural knowing, and recognize the truth in anything I would say for themselves. Because the truth believed is a lie, because you're not living it, you're not experiencing it. So no matter how much you think what I'm saying is true or not true, it makes no difference. What's important is, what's your experience? Are you bringing yourself to this experience? Are you open? Are you curious? Do you live in a state of wonder? Are you doing the things that are your tens, or are you selling yourself out? You know, are you going towards your allurement, what calls you? Or are you selling yourself out to pay the bills, or to make a fortune, or to be well liked, or to be, you know, whatever, a champion of some sort? Those things come from tapping into our natural essential goodness into ourselves, but they aren't. When you strive for them, you again say, I don't have those things. Well, you have everything. You have all the money in the world. You have all the love in the world. It's all right there. You've just frozen your chickens. That's all. I like that. I haven't used that metaphor before. I'm gonna.
But I like it. Yes, it's like quite understandable. Yes, everyone can understand it.
Yeah, I hope so. And I offer a lot of different programs, free programs, morning meditations. Right now, every morning at 9 on weekdays, I invite people to come in. You can go to welloflight.com, and that's WELLOFLIGHT.com, and click on the free daily meditations that I do. I channel these meditations with the people that show up. I have classes. I have the radio show. Uh, this summer, I'll be airing the sixth. Uh, it's called the Shamanism Summit, but it's also about mysticism and ancient teachings. So there's a lot of ways to get a hold of me at support@welloflight.com. That's one way to do that. I have openings for a global team that we have. If people have skills that they want to do, like the skills you have with radio and television, technology skills. You know, I put out an enormous amount of work. Slavomira knows that often I'm up in the middle of the night writing. What time did you talk to me? 3 o'clock in the morning or something here. So we have a learning organization. So if someone's interested in participating in that, I was planning on teaching in Europe in June, but that is now canceled. And we're looking at the possibility of September, October time to be in Europe again. It's been a while. And yeah, that's some of the ways that you can connect with the work that we do at the Well of Light.
Yes, and that's great to see how we can cooperate and co-create this new world really together. We can connect, people can connect with you. So thank you
Yeah,
very much.
we're always
Yes,
co-creating. That's really important to get. When you're
yes,
complaining about the circumstances and blaming things outside yourself, you're co-creating a world of victim and dependency. when you move inward and use everything to become more present, to awaken yourself to what's happening in the moment, you're co-creating a world that is safe for all life.
Yes, this is so important. Thank you that you mentioned it, because this is like the main reason why I'm making all these interviews, for people to be aware of it. We are creating every time, just to be aware of it, what we are creating or co-creating in the world. So thank you very much, Michael.
Slavomir,
for
it's so
your
lovely to
sharing.
be with you. Thank you for your work and your commitment and the difference you're making with your work in the world. It's a blessing.
Thank you very much. So thank you all for watching, and bye. See you by next interview. Bye.